The BYU Cougars are good at football. That's not something that a lot of people had on their bingo card coming into this season. And the BYU Cougars have the number one PFF graded quarterback in week 3 in Jake Retzlaff. Oh, not only BYU, there are some other shocking programs in the Big 12. I would venture to say, so far, stunned, and it reflected in my power rankings, BYU being at number 7 this week, Arizona State being at number 6, Baylor being at number 9. Those 3 schools, to me, have been the most surprisingly impressive in the Big 12 Conference. BYU, to give you your flowers, Jake Retzlaff has been that guy. When asked to step up and go win a game on the road, you would struggle to say that it was him that did it for the BYU Cougars. The defense certainly did, and I'm still not all the way on board with A-Rod, but you won that game, and this kid helped get you there. Then this past week, the dude is the highest graded quarterback in the conference and just goes, not bonkers, but bonkers. 62 yards on the ground, 291 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns in a world where I thought Gary Bohannon would be BYU's guy. Instead, it was Retzlaff, and that has worked out so well for you. Then I turn the page. You know what? No, I'm not even going to turn the page yet. I will say this. This is my one little caveat to the BYU deal. You did this to an extent last year, and it's tough. We're a fourth of the way through the season. I don't think that is sample size enough to say, oh, it won't happen again in 2024. Like, if you're a BYU fan, your default's to go, yeah, you know, we got that out of our system last year. We won't lose 5 straight again. We've only done that like twice in history. There's no way that, and I get why that's your default. No, we learned our lesson. Let's see. Sample size. Let's see. Because now BYU, their upcoming games, Kansas State. I know it's at home. It's a tough one. At Baylor. Baylor's improved. Do I think BYU wins that game? Sure. These are the preseason predictions that I had for BYU. That was a loss to Kansas State, a win at Baylor, a loss to Arizona. Those are their next 3 games. The problem is that Arizona stretch is Arizona, Oklahoma State, UCF, Utah, Kansas. Kansas feels a lot more winnable, but that in Arizona even feels a lot more winnable as a home game. But Oklahoma State, UCF, and Utah, it's a tough 3-game stretch. You can very well go to a bowl game. I need you to go 3-6 in your last 9 to go to a bowl game. Not a given, but BYU to this point has been much more impressive than I expected. And Jake Retzlaff is one of the reasons why. The defense is the paramount reason, but you've got a quarterback in Provo, Utah. And it's not something you could consistently say last year. Now, Arizona State, you're in a boat as my number 6 team in the Big 12 power rankings this week. A 3-0 boat. Unreal. That has wins against Wyoming, Mississippi State, and Texas State. Now, a lot of people thought coming into the season, Wyoming would be very good. They're not. Mississippi State, they're an SEC team. Well, you beat them. You did. You beat Wyoming. Texas State, I had you losing. This is my preseason prediction. I had you losing at Texas State. You're 3-0. You go to Texas Tech in your next game. And now that looks very winnable as Tech is outside of the top 10 in the Big 12 power rankings. Arizona State's reason for success, I wouldn't put it on the defense yet. I would instead say that Sam Levitt's been a good quarterback, and Cam Scatterbo is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Now, the defense of Arizona State in the second half against Texas State was pristine. That helped you win that game. It helped you close out that game because the offense was not great in the last 30 minutes. But it is the offense that's going to drive Arizona State the rest of the way. And if you compete in the Big 12, that is the unit that's going to get you there. And you very well could. Here's your saving grace. Your next 2, Texas Tech and Kansas, they are 2 underperforming teams in 2024. And you've got a real shot to start 5-0 and be on the precipice of being a ranked program. I had Arizona State 15th in the Big 12 in the preseason. They're now 3-0 in non-conference play. They could win at Texas Tech. They could certainly beat Kansas at home. The game against Utah is tough. I've got Utah winning that one, and I'm not sure you could argue it too much yet. Then on the road against Cincinnati, that's a win. Best case scenario here, you're 6-1, and then you kind of get the stretch of doom at Oklahoma State, against UCF at home, at Kansas State. Those are 3 of my top 4 Big 12 teams. And then BYU and Arizona. BYU is much improved. So while you're going to get a couple of teams that have underperformed so far coming up, you've got to go through the gauntlet of Oklahoma State, UCF, Kansas State, who have proven they can still play and are players at the top of the Big 12. And then BYU's in that mix as well. Arizona State, One of the three most impressive teams in the conference so far. Impressive meaning overperforming teams in the conference so far. That I will give you, and I don't mind saying that. And Sam Levitt was graded a 76 by PFF this last week, which was 10th in the Big 12 amongst quarterbacks, yet you still won on the road against a very gritty, salty Texas State team. Then, I don't know how you did it. I don't know how you did it, but the Baylor Bears keep climbing my Big 12 rankings, and while I had them in the preseason at 12th, they are currently sitting in the Big 12 power rankings at 9. They have come up 3 spots inside of the top 10. I assume they'd lose at Utah, as they did. I assume they beat Tarleton State, as they did. But preseason, I had them losing to Air Force at home. Not only did they beat Air Force, they throttled them. And things were a little bit different for Baylor. They didn't start Daquan Finn, who was going to be the second coming of RG3. And, he's going to step in. And, his first run was crazy against Tarleton State. They didn't get that. Instead, it's going to be Sawyer Robertson for the rest of the way out. And it should be at quarterback. He had a spectacular second half against Air Force. But I told you, I told you preseason, there are plenty of things about Baylor that I don't have confidence in. And the defense was one of them. The defense has been much improved from last season. Only held Air Force to 3 points. It's the first time since 2004 against a non-service academy that Air Force has been held without a touchdown. However, there was still this in the first half. These are the drives for these two teams. These are the drives in the first half. Punt, field goal. I should mention that field goal drive was 4 plays, -1 yard, 29 seconds for Baylor. Congrats on your free field goal. Punt, field goal, punt, fumble, missed field goal, turnover on downs, field goal, 3-3, fumble, punt, fumble, field goal, 6-3 at halftime. You can't get that taste out of my mouth yet. I can't yet say that Baylor is a bowl team. They're 2-1. Next game is at Colorado. And somehow that is very winnable because Colorado, at any point in time, could implode, fall apart at the seams, and the offense struggle against Baylor, especially the way that Colorado could not move the football against Nebraska. Then comes the home game against BYU. And I already said it earlier. BYU's improved. Baylor's improved. That game in Waco is interesting. Then there's the game at Iowa State. You're looking at a team that's in the top 5 of the Big 12 power rankings. Probably going to lose on the road there. At Texas Tech, now you've got a shot. All of a sudden, Baylor could feasibly beat Colorado, BYU, and Texas Tech. And at that point, everyone's head turns to Dave Aranda and says, somehow you found a way to win 5 of your first 7 games going into Oklahoma State and TCU. Oklahoma State's still good. I think TCU is better than Baylor. I have Baylor beating TCU because rivalry game, college football, welcome to a land where things happen. And it's still a possibility. Then West Virginia on the road, they are a train wreck. Houston on the road, they're a train wreck. Kansas at home, they're a train wreck. Could we be talking about an 8-win Baylor team? Could we be talking about a 9-win Baylor team? It's really not impossible. Even if we're talking about a 7-win Baylor team, everyone across the Big 12 will look at Dave Aranda and say, fine, you can keep your job. Very nice. Way to turn it around. And I, as someone who's been very cynical about Baylor, because I'm not a big Dave Aranda fan, he's done things behind the scenes. He's done things around that program that I not only don't appreciate, but don't respect. Things that I wouldn't go public with out of respect for different people who have been mistreated. And that's not to allude to something just terrible and scandalous at all, but just leadership issues with Dave Aranda and somebody who has a very hard time leading a program. That's why I would love for Baylor to win. And when they win, I get to root for them to win. When they lose, I get to root for them to win. They just don't do it. However, if things don't go well at this point, when your schedule for the Bears has somehow worked out this well, look, it's an opportunity. You got a real good opportunity to beat up on some teams that are struggling. But if you lose to those teams, your job's not just in jeopardy. Your job is gone if you're Dave Aranda. Coming up tomorrow, Big 12 stuff, because that's what I talk about on Locked On Big 12. Man, those three teams have been impressive. BYU, Arizona State, and Baylor. Good job, you guys. I appreciate you being good. West Virginia, why are you the way that you are? And those are the power rankings. This has been and always will be. Locked on. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.